Imagine this. You are standing on the biggest stage of your entire career. The success is blinding, the awards are piling up, and you finally made it.
Everything you set out to do.
Exactly. But for country music star Jelly Roll, that absolute peak moment was, believe it or not, also his darkest.
It was the moment he realized that his career, his success, and, well, the physical state of his body had put him on a collision course, a potentially fatal one.
Welcome to StarScope Report.
Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals.
From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And this was more than just a wake-up call for him. I mean, it was an existential reckoning.
Right. He was so successful, but he was telling people in interviews that he felt himself, quote, dying.
Yeah, he said he was afraid his heart could quit any day. The sources make it really clear this wasn't about looking good. It was this brutal, non-negotiable choice.
Change immediately or die young.
And that confrontation launched this fascinating two-front campaign.
Okay, so first you have the intensely personal battle to save his own life. We're talking starting at a staggering 540 pounds.
And losing nearly 200 of them. Then second, you have the public fight.
Leveraging that whole story of addiction, of redemption, and walking straight into the halls of power in Washington, D.C. to take on the fentanyl crisis.
So today we're doing a deep dive into the sources surrounding this just remarkable transformation. We're going to pull apart the emotional, the physical, and even the pharmaceutical strategies that drove it all.
And we're going to analyze his role as this powerful, nonpartisan voice in Congress. This story is all about how you can turn profound personal trauma into a platform for, well, incredible public good.
And the whole thing, the entire journey, it all hinged on something that sounds so simple.
A walk in the rain.
A walk in the rain. A 10,000-step commitment that broke a decades-long cycle of him lying to himself.
It's an incredible story. If you're loving these deep dives into celebrity vulnerability and the lessons they hold, make sure you're subscribed. We're here every week to uncover the stories that really matter. Okay, let's start with the physical numbers, because they tell a story all on their own.
They're just staggering.
When he started this journey, he was carrying 540 pounds. The sources confirm that by April of 2025, he'd gotten down to 357.
Which is a loss of 183 pounds. That's a huge amount in a pretty short time frame.
And his ultimate goal is to drop another 100 pounds so he can finally go skydiving with his wife, Bunnie Xo.
I love that goal. That skydiving goal is so key because it frames this whole thing not as like a punishment or a restriction.
Right. It's about pursuing a bigger or richer life.
Exactly. He realized his touring schedule, I mean, he's on the road 280 days a year, was just totally incompatible with that kind of body weight. The risk was just too high.
So he had to find what he called a will to live by facing his food addiction head on.
And he talked about that so powerfully. He called it a biological loop that he'd been stuck in for decades.
Which brings us back to that walk in the rain. That anecdote is just, it's the core of the whole story.
It really is. He told himself, okay, I'm going to commit to walking 10,000 steps. A huge deal at that weight.
A massive feat.
But the first Monday, he wakes up and it's just pouring rain outside. He said he was desperately looking for that excuse,
We've all been there.
For sure. But he had this epiphany. He realized every single time he lied to himself about his health, his body, and his mind, they all just started to believe he didn't mean it.
That is a profound thought that goes so far beyond just weight loss.
Oh, completely. It's like personal integrity is the foundation for any kind of physical change.
So stepping out into that rain, it wasn't really about burning calories that day.
Not at all. It was about reestablishing that integrity, breaking the cycle. And he tells this really emotional story about coming back just exhausted, and his whole family was outside cheering for him. The emotional boost came from knowing he finally kept a promise to them after years of breaking them. That feeling, that accountability, was the bedrock for everything that came next.
Okay, so you have this emotional momentum, but you have to translate that into sustainable habits, right? Especially when you're living on a tour bus most of the year.
That's the challenge. And that was his first pillar. Professionalizing recovery.
What does that mean exactly?
He admitted he needed expert help for what he called his biological loop. By saying it was biological, not just a willpower thing, it gave him permission to hire a team.
A nutritionist, a personal chef.
Exactly. Ian Larios was his chef. That team gave him consistency and accountability, which you absolutely need when your environment is changing every single day.
But, a personal chef isn't really accessible for most of us. How can you apply that strategy without the budget?
You can distill it down to consistency and allocating your resources. For him, the resource was money. For someone else, it might be time for meal prep on a Sunday. The key takeaway, though, is the blueprint they built.
The high protein blueprint.
Right, and this wasn't about deprivation. He called it the art of substitution, keeping the flavors you love, but just, maximizing the protein.
Give me an example. What does that actually look like?
Okay, so the sources talk about his favorite food, Nashville hot chicken.
Can't get more Nashville than that.
Right, so instead of deep frying it, they'd use lean chicken breast, coat it in potato and rice flour, and cook it in an air fryer. That just flips the protein to fat ratio on its head.
So you're basically tricking your body into feeling satisfied.
Precisely. A high-protein, low-carb diet works because protein kills your hunger, it boosts your metabolism, and it makes your body burn its own fat for energy.
Instead of just burning the carbs you just ate.
Exactly. They even did it with the sides. Swap deep-fried potatoes for, get this, bone broth, boiled French fries.
Yeah.
Just another way to sneak in more protein.
That's actually genius.
Okay.
So that's diet. The third pillar was movement, but it wasn't just about hitting the gym.
No, because that's too easy to skip on tour. He integrated something called NEAT.
Non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
It's basically the energy you burn doing everything that isn't sleeping or eating. Fidgeting, walking, standing up.
So how did he use it?
He made movement part of his environment. He'd walk 2 to 3 miles, 4 to 6 days a week. He took up boxing, played basketball, and this is key, he would just walk laps around the arenas before his shows.
So he's connecting the physical activity directly to his job. There's no excuse.
No excuse. And beyond just the calories, those activities flood your system with endorphins. He was swapping a bad obsession for a good one.
Exercise became the new addiction.
A beneficial one, yeah. It helped him manage stress without turning to food.
Okay, the fourth pillar is where things get really technical, the physiological changes. He did blood work.
And the results were a shock. His A1C was 6.4, so pre-diabetic. But his insulin level was over 40.
And what's a normal insulin level?
It should be under 5. To have a level of 40, that's like having a physiological padlock on your body's fat stores.
So even if he was dieting and exercising, his body was fighting him.
Constantly. The high insulin was just screaming at his body to store fat and preventing it from burning anything. The first step had to be unlocking that padlock.
So a lot of people are hearing about drugs like Ozempic for this.
Right, the GLP-1s. But he had some serious acid reflux issues, so instead he opted for a low dose of metformin.
And that worked.
It worked wonders. It brought his insulin down to 4.6 and his A1C down to 5.4, taking him out of that pre-diabetic range. That reset finally allowed his body to start burning the fat it had stored for years.
And there was another huge benefit, right? His testosterone.
A massive jump. The sources say his levels went from the 50s all the way up into the 750s.
Wow.
That's a natural result of losing weight and getting metabolically healthy, and it creates that positive feedback loop we were talking about.
More testosterone helps burn more fat.
And build muscle. Plus, he was very open that it improved his intimacy with his wife and just his overall quality of life. The change was so real he had to change his Oura ring size 5 times.
That's wild. And speaking of external changes, he recently took a really symbolic step. He shaved off his signature beard.
So symbolic. He admitted he started growing it over a decade ago because, in his words, he was so obese, it was just easier to cover up what was happening here.
Shaving it off is like shedding all that shame.
It was a public declaration,
That-
a new identity, even if his daughter, Bailey Ann, did say he now looks like a Ninja Turtle.
A hilarious but poignant review. That profound shift, that shedding of shame, is what gave him the power to take his story to the next level. Stay tuned, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Jelly Roll's powerful, non-partisan testimony against the fentanyl crisis. So Jelly Roll's personal history with addiction, it gave him this unique and incredibly valuable voice when he testified before the Senate.
He was there to support the Fentanyl Act, and yeah, he walked into that room as a star, but he spoke like a survivor.
It's a perfect case study in turning your vulnerability into like actual leadership.
It really is, and he set the tone right away. He described himself as just a stupid songwriter who has firsthand witnessed the devastation.
So he was immediately trying to bridge that gap between the policymakers in D.C. and, regular people.
Exactly. The raw, painful reality that American citizens are living through every single day.
And his testimony included this analogy that, it should just stop everyone in their tracks.
The 737 analogy.
He pointed out that 190 people die every single day from an overdose. That's the average capacity of a Boeing 737.
It's a shocking comparison, and it's meant to be. He argued that if a 737 crashed every day, it would dominate the news, it would halt air travel.
There would be immediate, drastic political action.
Of course. But because the victims are stigmatized, shamed as drug addicts, the crisis just doesn't get the same moral urgency.
His message was so clear. He said officials need to care more about human life than they do about ideology.
And he was very, very careful to draw a critical policy line in the sand.
To stop it from just becoming another tough-on-crime debate.
Right. He said, and I'm quoting, "I believe drug addiction is a mental health problem, not a law enforcement problem." But then he immediately followed up.
Acknowledging that drug dealing is absolutely a law enforcement issue.
100%. It's a poison that requires aggressive action. That distinction lets him advocate for both sides of the solution, reducing supply and reducing demand.
And his ability to even speak on this, on redemption, it's all rooted in his own past. He has a felony conviction from when he was just 15.
And despite all his success now, he still lives with the consequences. It's really sobering.
The sources confirm he's barred from voting. He struggles to buy a home because of insurance premiums.
He's even been barred from certain international travel and some local homeowner associations. It's just wild.
Being barred from voting for something that happened when you were a kid, that's a lifelong penalty.
And that's why his personal story is so vital to his advocacy. He's not just arguing for some theory. He is living proof of the systemic barriers that prevent people from truly rejoining society.
So his focus is on creating real paths to redemption.
Yes, and that ties directly into his focus on education to reduce demand for these drugs in the first place.
He specifically mentioned California's Melanie's Law.
Right, which mandates opioid prevention training in public schools because, as he stressed, the drug landscape has completely changed.
This isn't the same environment previous generations might have experimented in.
Not even close. With fentanyl, a single mistake, one moment of carelessness can be lethal. The stakes are absolute, and education has to reflect that new reality.
And at the end of the day, his whole public journey, the weight loss, the sobriety, the testimony, it all serves as this built-in accountability for him.
It's a powerful mechanism. By staying healthy, he's publicly reinforcing his own message.
Yet losers can win.
And that who you were isn't who you are. That transformation isn't just what gave him the moral authority to speak, it's what locks his own health into place.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to think about this week.
When he was talking about this massive redirection in his life, Jelly Roll said something really profound.
He said, "I quit chasing happiness. I just started chasing being useful."
That quote just perfectly sums up the entire pivot, doesn't it? From the kind of self-absorption that fuels addiction, that constant chase for a quick high to a life of external service.
His transformation wasn't just about depriving himself. It was about consciously swapping those negative obsessions for good addictions.
Exercise, meaningful conversation, public advocacy, finding a use for his pain in the service of other people. That turned out to be the most powerful and lasting form of redemption he could find.
You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.